My guest today is Mr. Eric Maupin.
Yes,
Thank you so much for coming on and being with me. It really does mean a lot. Coming all the way down to Chick.
Yeah, love Chick.
Yes, sir. Did you ever know a man named Bud McPherson?
Yes.
He used to write in the paper some. He put poems in the newspaper a lot.
Right.
He had an old saying. He said you had to go through Chick to get to heaven. So
there may be truth to that. We don't know.
It may be. I mean, Jesus is the only way. But
That's right.
This is a beautiful place down here. It's way out in the middle of nowhere, and I appreciate you making time to come on and be with me. Just to get started here, I mean, everyone who sees this is going to know that you're running for mayor. But besides that, I wanted to know a little bit more about you and leading up, your life to where you got now. I'll tell you a little bit of what I know about you. I know that you're a farmer. I know that you basically come from a family farm and been farming all your life, mostly. My sister, Courtney, used to work at the co-op while she was going through college. I don't know if you remember her, but she remembered you and always talked about how nice you were. My papa, Joe Smith, used to take me to the Hee-Haw show, and I'd see all y'all up there. And I tell you, I got one memory of something I just got to bring up because it's funny. I don't remember if it was you or somebody else as a part of the cast, but it was that year when Kenny Chesney's song come out, She Thinks My Tractor's Sexy. Someone rode a John Deere tractor mower across the stage, and I remember laughing till I cried. I thought that was so funny. But obviously, you've been very involved in the community, besides just now, you've done a bunch of stuff, and maybe you can walk me through, how you got started and everything, growing up on the farm, going to college, or, just if you can, lay out your journey for me a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm just no country boy from Newbern. And, it's funny, we talk about Chick, and I understand those folks that are from this area. My daddy-in-law, of course, my father-in-law doesn't live in this county, but he had heard about Chick so much that years ago I had to bring him down here just to for him to see what Chick was.
That's right.
Because he had heard from some of your family members that he knew different things about Chick. And so, and to make the connection there, my father-in-law that lives in Hardin County, your cousin,
Zach
I guess
Roper.
that's
Yes,
right,
sir.
is the pastor there.
Yes,
and
sir.
so there's the connection. But we lived in a little community called Maxie. No
Okay.
one's ever, you probably never heard of
That's
that.
new to
But
me.
Maxie had a store, it had a school,
Really?
and so that was a little community that we were in, and all of that's gone now. And so how wonderful it is to preserve those things within our
Yes, sir.
county. I'm a proponent of preserving our communities and that heritage there. So that's where I come from, Maxie community, and for those people that know where that is, that's where we are, a little country store that we used to, when I was a kid, we would go in there, and the Doziers used to run that. They lived in the back of the store.
No kidding.
That was the center location
Any
for our
relation
community.
to Dale, or is that a different bunch?
That was his grandfather
No
and
kidding.
grandmother.
Holy
yeah.
smokes. Dale Dozier, the building inspector.
Right.
I had no idea.
That was his, so that was our connection. That was our little community. And
Cool.
I still remember the one-room schoolhouse that was across the road from the school. From the store, Dozier's Grocery. And so they also owned it. And so as a kid, I would go in there, and my dad would tell the stories about this is how kids used to go to school. And
Yeah.
it was all the way up. Everybody was in one room. And so I love that history of our county.
Yes, sir.
I love that history of America where we started. So yeah, I'm a farm boy. We farmed on both sides. My mother's side of the family was from Rowan. I've had the opportunity to own part of that farm. My uncle and I owned that together, where her side of the family came in the logging. They came into this county on wagons.
Oh, wow.
And my mother still has the chest that all of their belongings
No
fit
kidding.
in that one chest when they
Holy
came
smokes.
here. And so that farm has been in our family for well over 100 years.
Wow.
And we still farm that ground in Rowan. And so my dad's side of the family, we actually came from Pagoda.
Okay.
We moved here many years ago, sharecroppers, and you will hear my story talk about 1938. That was a pivotal moment for the Maupin side of the family, because we were in Bogota and the flood of 1937 drove us out. I vividly remember my great-grandmother telling the stories about my great-grandfather coming that night and getting her, that day, and getting her off of the rooftop of the house.
Oh, wow.
With my great aunt when the waters came, and she talked about how fast they came. I may be talking too much.
No, stop, man. Take the lead.
But that is what I want my children. They've heard this story 100 times. It's part of who I am, because my great-grandmother tells those stories. That was a pivotal moment for us, because after the flood of 37, the federal government, for the first time ever, offered for those people that were displaced from the flood an opportunity they would guarantee a loan.
Wow.
We don't think about that, but never before would anyone loan sharecroppers like my great-grandfather money.
Yeah.
And so he and a lot of his siblings were able for the first time to borrow money, and they bought 100 acres.
Yeah.
And that 100 acres we're still living on today. The family generations have added to that 100 acres there in the Maxey community. I'm still farming that ground. He was the first person in that program to pay his note off.
Oh, wow.
And I still have the record books that he and my great-grandmother put together and did. They kept up with every penny. If she went and bought a spool of thread, she wrote it down. They kept track of their money so that they could pay that. They had an opportunity,
yes, sir,
and they wanted to use it wisely. And so here we are. I'm 4 generations. My kids are 5 generations later, still living on those acres, still farming those acres, have added
awesome
to it. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell when it comes to agriculture. And as you can tell, I'm passionate about history.
Yes, sir. I am too.
And passionate about agriculture.
Yeah, 37 was a record. It was supposedly a 100-year flood. In 2011, we had a flood. I'm sure you know about that as well. It actually got up into the vents of this house. So just to give you perspective, if you're just watching this, you don't know, but this house sits 10 blocks high on top of a ridge. It is down in the bottoms, but just to give perspective, it's pretty wild. Think about what those people back then who, sharecroppers' houses back then were, just little shanty type things. There was nothing to it. A lot of them were built up on stilts, and I could not imagine, if that would have been me or, my papa had stories of his dad and other people. I've heard them tell stories, sitting out on the porch, watching the water rise, thinking, all right, well, just another backwater, and then it just keeps coming. It's like, oh, God, have mercy.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine the fear that those people must have felt, and to have a program like that to help them, regroup and get a fresh start, that was fantastic. I don't think they did anything like that after 11, but really agriculture had changed so much from that generation to this generation that something like that probably didn't need to be done. But still, that's a fantastic story. So that's how y'all kind of got your start. Take me through, your journey. I'm guessing you went to Dyer County High School? Or?
I did. I'm a graduate of Dyer County High School. Was real involved. And I'll tell you, I was the first generation, my brother and I and our family, to go to college. Both of my parents didn't have that opportunity. And so when I was raised, it wasn't a question of if we were going to college. We were going to college. They wanted to give us a heads up, so to speak.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying that everybody should go to college. My mother got a scholarship, and when she graduated high school, her parents said, oh, no. There's no way.
Right.
We don't have the money, and you need to go to work and help us raise your brother and sister. So those are the type of things that I grew up with. I'm very honored that I had that opportunity. I got a full ride to UT Martin, got an agricultural business degree and a minor in communications. And then after college, my involvement there, I got real involved. I just was raised that way, that you get involved. And it all started by the VFW here in Dyer County.
Okay.
They took a chance on a young teenage kid.
Okay.
and sent me to Boys State, which is an organization that's still going on today. They pick people from Dyersburg High School, Dyer County High School, all across the state of Tennessee, and they go to Boys State and learn about government. And so I went there. I enjoyed it. It was a week long. I got elected by my peers as governor of Boys State.
Oh, wow. And
because of that, I also got chosen to go to Boys Nation. And I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it is just, they sent representatives from every state to Washington, D.C., and we learned about federal government.
Okay.
And there I got to meet the sitting president at the Rose Garden outside of the Oval Office.
Who was that?
And, that was George H. Bush.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm giving my age.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask.
If you remember who that is.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I told you I love history. I know who H was.
Well, George H. Bush shook my hand and told us that day, young men, don't complain about what's going on unless you're going to get involved and try to change it.
That's right. That is very good advice.
And so that was good. That was, to me, I couldn't, that stayed in my mind. And so I got involved in college. I got involved in student government, got elected student body vice president, got elected the next year as student body president. I got involved in the Republican Party.
Oh,
now, what you've got to understand, at that time,
there's been a shift, yes.
We were a blue state.
Yes.
That Democratic machine was alive and well in the South. I did that from my own personal faith and convictions about the Republican Party. I believed in how they financially thought.
Yeah.
And there is a big difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And I will say this, not that one side is 100% right and the other side is 100% wrong.
Yeah.
The Democrat Party believed that everything should come from the bottom up.
Yes.
If you want to help things, you give it to those in need. They'll spend more money. It helps businesses that are selling because they're spending. That's okay.
Yes.
The Republicans, though, believe that you have to have an environment with less regulations, less government, so that you help those businesses, and those businesses will thrive, creating more employment opportunities, and so it's a trickle-down effect.
Yes.
The social aspect of it is totally different.
Yes.
But those are the two fundamentals, and so I got involved in the Republican Party. I started helping with candidates. The first candidate really on the Republican side that I helped was Fred Thompson. I helped when he got elected Senate. I don't know if that name rings a bell.
It doesn't. That's for me probably. What year was that?
That was in the 90s, actually.
I'm a 96 model.
Okay. Yeah. So Fred Thompson, I helped to go across the state in the red truck. He was an actor that ran for Tennessee U.S. Senate and became one of our senators with Bill Frist, who was a doctor at the time. And so I saw in Tennessee, and I was a part of the Republican Party shift, and us shifting from what I call a speckled state. East Tennessee was Republican, West Tennessee was a diehard Democrat.
Yeah.
And I saw that shift. After college, I had the opportunity to go to work with Governor Don Sundquist administration under the Department of Ag as the first international agricultural marketing coordinator for the state of Tennessee.
What were those responsibilities like?
Well, my job was to help Tennessee companies in agriculture venture into the international market.
Okay.
So Tennessee companies that were producing agriculture, whether it was processed foods, specialty foods, whether it was trees or shrubs, whether it was fruits and vegetables. I didn't work with the big commodities because we had those people already in place. So I was working with those smaller agricultural companies that say, hey, I think that there is an export opportunity for my product in Europe or maybe Asia. Yeah. And so I
what were
helped
some
them.
of those littler companies that you're talking about? You remember any of them?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. By name, I know might be hard.
Well, and I don't know that I need to say by name, but I work with a lot of specialty food companies here in Tennessee that were producing gourmet foods.
Gourmet foods.
Well, I say that sauces. I worked with Bell Buckle. They do a lot of jams and jellies and that kind of thing.
I got you.
We took their product to a lot of places. fruits and vegetables. People don't think
Gotcha.
about it, but here in Tennessee, we raise a lot of hydro-cooled green beans up in the plateau in Middle Tennessee.
Okay. Yeah.
We were shipping a lot of those strawberries.
I'll say that's one area where I'm super weak. I mean, I'm real familiar with West Tennessee and the kind of agricultural products we produce. But as far as anything else, I know it's big throughout the state, you know, and obviously soybeans, corn, stuff like that. Like you said, all that was probably already in place. But I was just curious as far as, you know, the other gaps that need to be bridged there.
Yeah.
You know, that you were.
Well, so for example, I saw an export opportunity in Canada.
Okay.
The Canadians at that time, they actually consumed about 3 times more per capita of fresh fruits and vegetables than Americans. And there was about a 2 to 4 month export opportunity window.
Yes.
Where their products were not coming in yet and ours were.
Yeah.
And so we shipped a lot of strawberries, green beans, that type of thing to the Canadian market.
Yeah.
We don't think about it, but McMinnville and in that area are huge when it comes to trees, shrubs. You know,
there's a lot more that goes into agriculture, even though our area plays a big part in production of soybeans, corn, wheat, cotton, things like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I could just see how there could be challenges with that. That's why I just wanted to ask a little bit more about it.
Well, and it is in freight forwarding, and you can't ship, for example, you can't ship any soil whatsoever overseas, mainly because of the issues that you have with disease. And so you try to ship a tree, most of the time all the time, we would have to pull that tree up. We would sell €1 whips to Asia and to Europe.
Wow.
And we would have to wash those roots, all of the soil off of the roots. And
wow.
then
How do you preserve it? Just wrap the root wad?
Yeah, you wrap the root wad. Believe it or not, we would do containers, of course, and we would fill those containers and we would put layers of newspaper, and then we would wet that down, and that would keep those roots moist until they could get overseas.
Well, that's really cool. I don't mean to go off on a rabbit hole with that.
No.
It sounded cool. I want to ask more about it. Sorry, go ahead.
That was just a form of life, and so as I was doing that and living out of a suitcase months at a time.
Can I go down another rabbit hole?
Absolutely.
Were you already married? Did you get married after this? A lot of people meet their spouse in college or around college,
Right.
you know, so I'm just kind of wondering how it probably started around this time, and I'm just curious, you know, did you know her from the time you grew up, or, you know?
No, actually, that was one of the things, my faith is strong.
Yes, sir.
And
mine is too.
I loved my job. I was getting to do something that was just amazing. I was working with people. I was helping agriculture. I was getting to travel. And so after I did that for a long while, just out of the blue, my dad said, you know, I've decided I'm going to retire from farming. And he gave that opportunity to me and my brother. We were both in Nashville, or in the Nashville area, working different jobs. But and so I got to praying about that. I'm not going to, and I just thought, you know what? If I'm ever I will regret this if I don't go back and try to take over the family farm.
So you had peace about it.
My brother was married, and so he was settled in where he was.
Sure.
And I was not married. And so it was funny. I came back here and everybody kept going, what happened? Did you get fired? You know, why would you leave that job? You know? And so, but the Lord had a path for me. I moved back here, got involved in my church, started farming. It was not easy. I went from making money to being in debt to my eyeballs because I bought my parents out. And so, but the funny thing is on a Wednesday night at church during a business meeting, my current wife walked in the door.
How romantic.
So
business meeting.
Yeah, business meeting. And she was late, by the way, so I have to
hey.
just tell the people that. But
you know that that's how it's going to be.
Yeah, that's how we met. She actually came from Hardin County and had taken a job at Northview Middle School in Newbern.
Okay.
And
What church you said?
Fairview Baptist at the time.
Okay.
I don't go there now.
Yeah,
Lord's
but
moved beyond, but that's where we met.
Oh wow!
And she was looking for a church on a Wednesday night to go to, and so
Walked into a business meeting. Met her husband. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
So that's how we met, and that's how the Lord put us together. And I don't know who's listening to this, but I'm going to tell you, I don't know what your faith is, and I hope it's okay for me to say
No,
this.
man, say on.
God will direct your path, and don't ever forget that. The miracles that God performs are personal, and so He's performed a lot of miracles in my life, and my life is one of those. So
Yes, sir.
very
Same
thankful.
Here. Same here. I mean, I'm very religious. I had a podcast last week, and it ain't come out yet. Me and Trevor Sewell, the pastor at Family Baptist Church, he's fantastic.
Yeah.
But no, I go as far into that as people feel comfortable talking. We have a great commission to share the gospel, and Jesus called us to be fishers of men. And, there's some fish you just won't bite, no matter how hard you try.
That's right.
But if people are willing to listen, I'm willing to talk all day long, because I'll tell you, the Lord made a difference for me. Jesus and Joe Smith, they made the difference for me.
Yeah.
I can't help but just name drop him, because even though he's been dead and gone 7 or 8 years, he was a legend.
Yeah, that he was.
No, I mean, yes, I can see from the point I gave my heart to the Lord at an early age. I was 14. I'd been raised in church, and I had always, loved the gospel message, loved going to church. But when you begin to come at the age of understanding and you're dealing with sin within yourself, it's difficult. A lot of people who are raised in church don't continue in church because they get discouraged or something happens and it knocks them out. When I was probably right there at that fork in the road, and the Lord began to deal with me, and I actually went to church with him at this little church down here on Sunday mornings. Whenever he would go, he would take me. And I remember Brother Tommy Hughes. I don't know if you ever knew him. Brother Jackie Gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would preach like the world was on fire. And I remember I had felt conviction before, but brother, I had never felt conviction like that. It made a difference for me. So from that point onward, things began to change. And I've been in my current church 15 years. I'm assistant pastor there. I'm a Sunday school teacher there. Me and my wife help with the youth there on Wednesday nights. So, I mean, you're not going to upset me at all talking about anything with the Lord, because I know it made a difference for me. I understand that it may turn some people off. I'm sorry if it does, but I'll tell you this. I was going down one path, and the Lord changed that path, and it's been nothing but good. I mean, I've had hardships. I've faced obstacles. Everybody does. I'm sure you have. Still yet, the Lord's been good to me, and I can tell you that I'm much better off for having known Him and having served Him than I would have been any other way. So, I appreciate it. Anytime you want to talk about that, just go for it.
Well, it is a big part of my life, and it is the most important thing.
Yes, sir.
And so sometimes, and I think, and I've said this to you, I prayed about running for county mayor. I have a peace about that. And I don't know what my future holds, but I want to use that platform to share the gospel and to tell people what the Lord's done for me. And so this is a platform, win or lose.
Yes, sir.
I want to. That's the most important thing in my life, and that's. I would say that to anyone.
Yes, sir.
God's been good to me. That's the first thing we'll ask Him when we get to heaven. Why were you so good to me? Not that we don't live in a sinful world and things are going to happen to all of us, and that's something we need to understand while we're here. But God, I'm a child convert as well. My parents were godly people, still are. They're both still alive, and I'm very thankful for that. And I'm thankful that God allowed me to marry a godly woman.
Yes, sir. That makes all the difference in the world.
Oh, absolutely. And so, when you look at that, faith is important to me. It's not a fad. It's not something I talk about to get. I mean, it is part of my life. And so I've even had people ask, well, if you get married, if you get mayor, what is that going to look like? And I just have to tell you that Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. It's who I am. It's part of me. He is inside me.
Yes.
And so every decision I make is going to be based on, hopefully, prayer and concern. And He's going to direct my path and the decisions that I make. So I want to make that clear.
Yes, sir.
Well,
I appreciate you too talking about how you prayed about it. I did the same thing. I mean, folks may or may not know. I guess you know that I'm running for commissioner. I prayed about it. I felt peace over it. And in fact, there was 3 days where I couldn't sleep at night. I stayed up all night, and it's like the Lord had impressed it on my heart, and I finally was like, I got to do this, or God ain't gonna let me go.
Right.
So I mean, I made that leap. I've been, in the private sector, if you want to call it that, all my life. I've been involved in the community, in the periphery, very involved in church. I mean, I've spoken at many churches, preached, sang at a bunch of singings for folks, for benefits and things like that. But politics is a completely different game, and just no longer than I've been in it, I thought, God have mercy. But we need Christian, godly men and women who have the burden from God. The Bible says that the powers that be are ordained of God. I believe that, and I'm not saying anybody that's in there now isn't Christian or godly or anything like that. That is not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying that more Christians do need to be involved. More
Absolutely.
Christians need to vote 100%. I have people in my family who don't vote. Please vote, for crying out loud. It makes a difference. You think that it doesn't matter? God has blessed us to live in this great country where so many people have fought and died so that we could have this awesome right that so many other people don't have, that we have the opportunity to have free speech and do what me and you are doing today. We need to exercise these rights. I mean, and I think that if we don't, and I might be going out on a limb here, I don't want to make nobody mad, but if we don't exercise our God-given rights, I think God will hold us accountable. That's why I feel that push to, as I'm getting older, more and more to be involved in some way, So whether I'm commissioner or whatever, I'm still want to be a blessing to this world. God's blessed me. I want Him to bless the world through me and help other people, because He's, at what point, how old are you?
50.
50. All right, I'm 29. At what point, how much is God going to bless you before you decide, what, I need to give back somehow, and I probably can't give back in some great extraordinary way if all I can do is just be a witness to all the good things that the Lord has done for me, and if I can share the name of Jesus to someone who doesn't know it, and if I can be involved in some decisions, and seek the Lord for, His wisdom and His will be done, then I think that that's fantastic. And somebody else who shares that same vision, that's great. I really appreciate you saying all that. So.
Well, and even furthermore, to all your listeners, we've got to understand that God likes using people.
Yes, sir.
And He loves to use people that aren't perfect.
Yeah, amen.
Moses.
God knows I ain't perfect.
Well,
God,
Moses had a speech impediment.
Yes, sir.
David did one of the greatest miracles in the Bible when he was a kid, and everybody was trying to stop him.
Yes.
And so God loves to use those. Every person that is born was born perfect according to God. Now think about that. He made you just the way He wanted you.
In His image.
Yes. And so when you look at it like that, one of my favorite scriptures is when David said, I'm young. I was young and now I'm old, yet I've never seen the righteous forsaken or their seed begging bread.
Yes, sir.
That means that what we do is generational.
Amen.
And so the things that we do now will affect the next generations behind us. And you talked about Joe Smith. What he did affected the next generation.
Absolutely.
And so we've got to keep that in mind. And that even goes into politics. This country, the reason I love this country so much is because it was founded and our government was formed on biblical principles.
Yes, sir.
And so we can't, people continue to talk about separation of church and state, which was a comment. And we won't get into that because I don't believe in the way most people think about that. Religion and our government are so tied together through biblical principles. And so one of the things that I want to do is to make sure managing our money, we should do that in a biblical way at home. We should do that in a biblical way on county government as well.
Yes, I agree. I agree with all that. That's great. So we detoured big time from where we were at. So
yeah, I'm sorry. That was probably my fault.
That's great. That's fantastic. But we were at, you had just come home to the family farm. You'd met your wife, and you bought out your parents, beginning farming up to your eyeballs in debt. I totally get that. Making that leap is hard in any business, farming especially. farming's always a gamble, you know. So anyways, that's where you were at in your story, and what was next? Did you continue to farm, or in what other ways were you working in the community, or were you still involved in politics in some capacity, or you know, you talked about helping people run their campaigns and things like that.
Right.
Can you just walk me a little further?
Well, and I'll just say, going back to that sitting president that kind of gave me a charge that I still haven't forgotten as an old man at 50 years old.
Good
But
grief. Hey, if I look, I mean, I'm not trying to be weird, but when I'm 50, I'll probably be white-headed, bald. I'll barely be getting along
I'm getting
at the
there.
rate I'm going.
getting there.
I've already got white hair. My hair's falling out, so I don't know.
Well,
But anyways, yeah, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't have guessed 50, but yeah, continue.
well, thank you. So yeah, I've always stayed involved. I mean, in farming, I've served on boards. I've had served on several commissions by other governors that have put me on their non-paid positions, just to offer some assistance from the ag community. I'm a real big, always have been, proponent about we need to be involved. We need to tell our story regardless of what that story is. That's why I'm here today. I want to tell my story. I want people to understand, learn from my mistakes, and benefit from my successes. And so I've had the opportunity to own other businesses. I owned LLC, taken chances, been on different boards, managed millions of dollars through. Right now I'm sitting on a board that has over $100 million budget that we kind of oversee. And so
What's that?
well, that is the United Soybean Board.
Okay.
That
Soybean
oversees
Association,
yeah.
right?
Well, this board oversees the checkoff program. Every farmer puts on, and so we're looking at ways that we can use those funds nationwide to benefit the soybean farmer and producing new things that's going to offer more uses for the soybean product. Served on the dicamba task force back when dicamba first came out. We were having issues. The commissioner of ag and the governor at that time. There was a governor that wanted to have a rural challenge to increase in Tennessee. Governor Haslam wanted to put a board together to figure out ways that we could increase the revenue for our Tennessee farmers all across the state, and so I was happy to serve on that board. So I've always been involved. Dyer County, let's get locally. I've stayed involved in that on a state level, also on a county level, to try to make Dyer County better.
Yeah.
And so, talking about the Republican Party, I was on the campaign for the first Republican since Reconstruction after the Civil War that got elected by the Dyer County people, and that was Senator Mark Norris from Shelby County.
Okay.
Now he's a sitting judge, but he went on. We elected him as our senator. He got Dyer County as part of his area, and we elected him. He went on to become, this is many moons ago, but he became the caucus chair for the majority.
Okay.
In the Republican Party on the Senate side. Then later on, I was involved in Bill Sanderson, helping him with his campaign. He became the first representative before Rusty Grills to wear that R beside his name in the ballot box. So I have been a Republican before it was cool to be a Republican.
Hey,
I'm proud of our party.
Yeah, can I just riff on that a minute? It is so strange to me how there was a big shift, and this was like right around the time I was born. Ever since I've been, old enough to even pay attention, it's all been Republican in our state. There are still a lot of Democrats, like old school Southern Democrats.
Sure.
That's still the real thing. And I appreciate what you said earlier about how it's not one side's 100% right and the other side's 100% wrong.
I'll get criticized for that, by the way.
No, I won't let them.
But it's okay. It's okay. I stand behind it.
Well, I will tell you this, that, I remember just watching things unfold as I was growing up, and things really begin to change in the Democrat Party socially. Now, I'll tell you, when it comes to monetary policy, I'm more open-minded. I do definitely see where it comes from with the Republican side. I see where it comes from on the Democrat side. I'm open-minded to arguments about that, but where I draw the line is the social things that begin to happen around 2010 and onward, maybe with the Democrat Party, and to where it is now. I cannot, I appreciate anybody listening to this that might be a Democrat, but the stuff that they do with wanting to trans kids and the ideologies that they want to push, it seems like that they want you to align with them 100%, no matter what. And I just can't get on board with that. Now, I will say, if there's a Republican guy who comes along and says this is exactly how everything needs to be, this, and this, it's a problem where we're letting partisan stuff really, people want to fall along the party lines down to the detail, just do what they're told. We need more like free thinkers, more people who are open to discussion and open to discourse and willing to battle out ideas instead of just writing off the person on the opposing viewpoint as, a racist or somebody who's, maybe I'm putting my foot in my mouth, but you know where I'm going with this. It breaks down into tribalism. It breaks down into people who are just picking sides. It's a team that you're on. At the end of the day, we're all on the same team. We're Americans,
Right.
and we all want the same goals, which is prosperity. We want to be blessed. We want to honor God, I believe people that are religious want to honor God in their own way. So we all want to honor God. We all want to be a blessing to this world, to our family, to the generations after us. And I really, it's something to watch how everything's kind of unfolded just since I've been old enough to pay attention. But it's wild to think that there was a time, maybe right when I was born or a little bit sooner, where it was just blue all the way. And now it's changed. It's like it seemed like it happened really fast, But
Yeah, and I think the ideology of the parties has changed over the years, and it's from where and who they're representing. And so I've always said the biggest problem, if you'll look, and people need to understand this because this is very important. We are seeing a shift in this country, urban versus rural.
yes,
Let's take parties aside because I have over the years worked with a lot of Democrats that agreed on a lot of things. Now, I'm not saying I'm part of the Democratic Party. I just explained to you.
They're coming for you now too.
Well, yeah,
I'm just messing with you.
but we need to compromise.
Yes, sir.
Not compromise. Compromise has turned into a bad word, but we need to find common ground.
Middle
I
ground,
guess
yes,
is
sir.
the best way to put that. I'm not 100% right.
Yes.
You're not 100% right.
Yes.
We can. It's the American way to disagree on issues.
Yes,
But it's also the American way that you and I can sit down and go, okay, here's what my constituents want.
yes,
Here's what your constituents want. Let's find middle ground.
yes,
Let's find the best way to serve both people.
yes,
And so that's what we're missing today.
yes,
And that's what we've got to get back to, even on our local government. Emotions get involved, and then you start losing reality of truth.
yes. I view it like, imagine that truth is something too big for all of us to wrap our minds around. This is how I view it. The truth, the God-given truth, is more than one person can handle. And so we're all viewing the truth from different perspectives. We're seeing one side of it, maybe as a Republican, that the Democrats are seeing a different side of the same thing, and it looks completely different to them, and we can't come together. But it requires teamwork. It requires to be in unison with each other. One of my favorite verses, Psalms 133, how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity, and there God commanded the blessing, even life forevermore. And so we've lost the community aspect of it as far as realizing we are brothers and sisters. We're all, in a way, we're made in God's image. We're the children of God. We're definitely Americans, and we need to work together to try to, compromise is a dirty word now to people, and I don't understand why it has to be. I mean, I know, at least from my generation, we've seen it all of our lives. We're so sick of the bickering. We're so sick of the, partisan stuff. At the end of the day, we just want to know that things are getting done, that stuff is happening, and not so much just that one side's winning and one side's losing, and seeing things in a stalemate. It seems like a lot of these issues nationwide, you look at, the stuff that they're trying to do. I think Trump had the SAVE Act or whatever stuff going on that's bigger than I can even wrap my little brain around. But, it would be so nice that instead of, well, you're a racist, you're a transphobe, or, you're a Nazi or something crazy like that, why not just be like, okay, well, you see it different than me, but we're still Americans. Like the community, the physical intermingling of us just seems like it's come apart, and I hate that. But I will say this, that I am very optimistic about our future despite all this. A lot of people would look at the way the world's going right now. You hear it all the time, I'm sure. I know I do. And they say things like, oh, the world's in a mess and it ain't going to get no better. And, who knows when Jesus is going to come back, But my point is that, there's been times in our nation's history of great turmoil in the past.
Sure.
And we rose above that. And I believe that we're at a point where I'm having faith in God that we will rise above that yet again. A lot of people act like we're a nation in decline. What if we're just like a nation in its adolescence, fixing to grow up and be greater again, And I have real faith in what our country was founded on, and I do have faith in our people. I think that, a lot of the problems that we experience, and I'm going down a rabbit hole again, I'm sorry, but, politically or just in the world in general, I think they're spiritual things. I think that it's spiritual. I think that, a lot of people are under attack, and this is, we don't have to talk about this anymore than what I'm going to say, but like with drugs, with crime, with things like that, these things, those are generational as well.
Absolutely.
And we have seen a generational curse. I hate to say curse, but it's like a bondage that goes from one generation to another. And you think about it too, I can see Satan working in it, because you look at like in the 30s and 40s, I had, ancestors who ran moonshine. Oh, it was a big deal. You know what I mean? They made moonshine. It was a big ordeal. If those same ancestors had been alive in the 80s or 90s, or if they'd have been alive now, who knows what they might have been doing. There's people now that back then it was moonshine. It seems so innocent to us to laugh about. Now it's cocaine, it's meth, it's fentanyl, and you can see how that stuff is a lot more powerful than moonshine. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it seems like it is just, we're watching that take a toll on our community. I think it has a lot to do with it, and how do you fight that? I don't have the answers for all that. That's why I said I believe it's spiritual. I think that at the end of the day, only God can help people. We can do what we're called to do. We can work to the best of our ability. I say it like this all the time. We work like it depends on us, but we pray like it depends on God.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, He's where all the grace comes from, And so at this time in our story, we need a lot more grace for each other, for people who have been struggling, for people that have went through some things. And I hope that this doesn't turn off anybody by me talking about it, but that's just where I stand on it. And I don't have the answers, and I'm not going to claim to, but this is one thing I do know. Jesus can help people's lives and make a difference for them. And so that may not be super popular. People want to hear about a program or a 12-step thing or something that the government can do. At the end of the day, we're servants just like anybody else that would watch this, And the Lord is our way of salvation. That's the way I see it. That's the way I believe it. And, I hope that don't offend nobody. But.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that takes us to an area that I would like to discuss, because one of the reasons, one of the things that I would like to do if elected county mayor is we've got to understand, what is our government for? What is Dyer County government for?
Yes.
What services are we going to provide? And sometimes our government wants to commingle and do what God designed our churches to do in our communities. Now, should the county government aid that when needed? Absolutely, but we should not take care of that duty that I think our churches and our communities should be strong.
Yes.
I want to encourage our churches and our communities to be strong. We have lost that community connection within our county, and that is so important.
Yes.
When we lost our little schools, think about it. When we got rid of these one-room schoolhouses, we built bigger schools that were still in the community. And everyone wrapped their arms around that, and that was the unity within the community. And then we've moved away from that. I'm not advocating one way or the other, but what I'm saying is we have lost something that was so important to our communities.
Yes.
And now we've got to find that catalyst that's going to bring our communities back together.
Yes.
It may be our volunteer fire departments. It may be our churches.
Yes.
Regardless, we've got to strengthen our communities because that's so important. You're running for county commission.
Yes,
At the end of the day, you're going to have constituents. And those constituents, by the way we're designed in county government, are a community.
Yes.
We have 20 county commissioners. They represent communities within our county.
Yes.
And so just for the fact of you knowing what the pulse is of your community as a county commissioner, you need that catalyst in that community so that they can wrap around you, they
Yes.
can meet together,
Give feedback.
and get feedback. And so that is one thing, if we're not careful, we need to encourage, we don't need to forget about it.
I agree. And again, speaking to that sense of community kind of falling apart, I think that part of that is the reason why you see the kind of turmoil. I hate to use the word turmoil, but it's kind of like what it is, between different parts of people. I could just say the word and, oh, well, here I go. I'm going to get in trouble. You ready? You see it like with the concerned citizens. And I'm going to post this on their page or, a clip of it, and I'm sure they won't mind. They're very passionate.
Sure.
And I think that they have some very good points, and they deserve to have a voice. They deserve to be heard. But there's a real disconnect between people who, are identifying with the concerned citizens group and then those who have been a long time, maybe served on their CLB for a long time, that somehow or another that sense of community, which would make this thing work out naturally,
Right.
has kind of been lost until you see something like concerned citizens pop up. And what they're doing is a good thing as far as making their voice be heard and speaking their mind. And hey, I believe in that. But it would be so nice to see in the community, not on Facebook, and nothing wrong on Facebook. We're going to post this on Facebook. But, so many people connect through this thing right here now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's fine. A lot of people maybe can't get out or they're working nights. And so they don't get to see people every day at the country store or wherever folks meet up or whatever. They're not able to be involved in their local church. Maybe that's just not for them. I don't know. But we need more of what you're talking about, yes, than just what you see on Facebook. And at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to hate somebody over a screen than when you sit down and see them every day. It's a different thing. You realize they're a person just like me. They're fighting battles just like me,
Absolutely.
And so there's more room for compassion. There's more room for grace and healing and coming together. And I sure would like to see more of that. But while we're headed in that direction, I want to give you an opportunity. So, you very well may be our next county mayor, and whatever the Lord's will is, that's what we're praying for. That's what I'm praying for. I'm kind of, I'm impartial. I got to be impartial to this kind of thing right here. But I will say that if God blesses you and this is the Lord's will and the direction that we go in, what would be your vision? If you had to lay out a vision, I know it may be hard to put it in a sentence or even a paragraph, but to lay out a vision of what it looks like for you to be mayor, what would you do? What are some priorities? Or, could you just expound on that a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. And so now getting in wading into the weeds. And so, yes, I have a platform. I will tell you that I'm coming out with social media that should be out today.
No kidding.
I will be on Facebook, we'll be on X, we'll be on Instagram.
Oh, crap.
Also have a website, maupinformayor.com. So hopefully you'll see that. I want people to understand who I am.
Yes.
And I've told people this throughout this campaign. I have nothing against David Quick.
Yes.
I want to go on record as saying that. I like David. We have different ideas as to how to run the county as expected.
Yes.
I'm not running necessarily against David Quick. I'm running for the position of county mayor.
That's a good way to put it.
Because I see things that I want to see happen. We talked about one of them. I want a mechanism within the county to hear the voice of each individual community. Sometimes emotions are great. You brought up the concerned citizens. I love that their ability to be able to share their concerns.
Yes.
What they need to understand, though, is you take 20 county commissioners, those county commissioners are representing their counties. And we've got to understand that what may be good for Findlay is
Yes.
not good for Trimble.
Yes,
And what is good for Yorkville may not be good for Miston.
that's right.
And what's good for Bogota may not be good for Findlay or
Yes.
Fulks or wherever you want to talk about. And so we've got to have an environment that is conducive with those county commissioners coming together, and the county government has to be 100% transparent.
I agree with
The
that.
worst thing that can happen is our county commissioners making a decision on something and not having all of the information in front of them.
Yes,
So one of the things on my platform is to be transparent 100% with every county commissioner and with the public of Dyer County.
okay,
We're going to use every means possible to make sure that information gets out to the people that live in Dyer County. I think that's critical. I think we've missed the mark on that in the past. When you talk about budget, we have, I think in 20 and go back and look at these numbers, but in 24, 25, I think the revenue that came into the county was about $79 million. Last year, that number was somewhere a little over 80 million. That's an issue. That's a problem.
okay.
No one talks about it.
That amount of money coming in.
No, it's not about the money.
Okay,
Use any figure you want to.
yeah,
When you look at 79 million to 80 million in a year, the size of a county like us,
yeah,
that is a 1% increase in our budget
yes,
that's naturally occurring from growth.
okay.
Your budget naturally should grow
Sure,
every year.
certainly hope so, yeah.
And we have got to put all of our energy and focus into growing our communities,
Yes,
growing our county. There are counties within the state of Tennessee that have not had a property tax increase in over 20 years. Why is that?
why is that?
Why are we different?
Why are we different?
It's because we do not have the growth. We need growth in this county to get our budget to a point where our county commissioners and our budget committee is sitting down and they have a 4, 5, 6% every year increase by growth. Now, if we can accomplish that, why would we ever want to increase property taxes?
Well, hopefully you wouldn't ever want to. But, okay, so that all sounds fantastic. Two things before I get lost. The first, you said be more transparent to the county commissioners, to the constituents. What do you mean by that? And how would you, affect transparency? One thing that I would like to see, which, I went to the meeting last night, the COB meeting, and, sitting out in I forget what you call that front part. I can't hear a lot of what people say, or I get little bits and pieces of it. A lot of people have talked about maybe video or audio, so people watching through Facebook can see it that way. I don't know if something like that's what you're talking about. I don't know if you mean like better communication to the commissioners, or, could you just flesh that out for me a little bit, what you mean?
Well, and this is just me personally, but sometimes, and I don't talk about this, we have to do a better job of getting that information out to the county commissioners earlier before they take a vote on it. There are times that committees meet and then our county commissioners don't get that information to them in a timely manner. They're required to vote on it and they've only had that information 24, 48 hours.
Really?
We need to get that information to them sooner.
When
We're
are
living
these-
in 2026.
Ain't
We
that
can
true?
get that information to them sooner.
When's the window between these committee meetings for things that are going to be voted on? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, is the meeting the day before or 2 days before, and then we have a COB meeting, or is
That's
that the
different.
problem? That's
That-
okay.
I mean, well, there's no set in stone. Committee meetings
Okay.
happen, from what I gather, and then they have their monthly meetings.
Yeah.
And sometimes it falls wrong. But if it does, then we need to back that committee meeting up.
Yeah.
We need to get information out.
Yes.
I've been to meetings where I called a county commissioner, my county commissioner, and said, "Hey, why weren't you at this meeting at the chamber? Well, I didn't know anything about it." That's a problem. That is an issue from the mayor's office. I'm just going to call it out. I would say that if he was sitting right here. Our county commissioners need to know everything that's going on in the county.
I agree. 24 to 48 hours is not enough to get a bead on what people want. What do you think would be a good target? 14 days, a month, or longer than 2 days? I agree with that 100%.
I just think it needs to be
Plenty of time.
as soon as they can.
Yeah.
They need to be informed. They need to be well informed. Some will say, well, we probably are. I don't think so. That's just personal. I think when it comes to everything, we need to be transparent with the people.
Yes.
What is wrong with sitting down and posting, here's what we're looking at on the budget and here's why?
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think that, I think that people get upset when they're mis or uninformed.
Sure. Well, it's easier to get upset, if you don't know what's
Absolutely.
going on. Yeah.
And my charge to your viewers and to you personally, these things that are said, these things that are done, check them out.
Yeah.
I just quoted some numbers. Don't take my word for it. Find out.
Yeah.
Am I correct in those numbers?
Yeah.
Was the budget $80 million last year?
I'll tell you something right now that may discourage you. I asked questions about the budget to a couple guys. They had no answers. That are commissioners. They had no answers. That was very discouraging to me. And I could name drop them. I don't want to do that. Maybe I should, but it feels inappropriate to do it on Facebook and put them on blast. That's not what I want to do at all. But it is a problem between, I would say, some commissioners maybe understanding the budget or being able to give an answer on the budget. And one person said that thing was like 100 pages. You think I got time to read that? His words. So that was very, I thought, God have mercy, that's not good. You ought to be able to tell me the high points of it at least, and if I have a question, get back to me. But if they can't answer it right then, I understand being an expert on all of it all the time, unless you're on the budget committee, maybe they would be able to give an answer at any given time. But still yet, when a person has questions, when a constituent has questions, if a commissioner is unable to answer, say, they ought to be able to look at you and say, give me a day or two and I'll get back to you. And that's a problem that's not just at the mayor's office to the commissioners, and that very well may be an issue. If what you're saying is true, that's an issue, and I'm sure you're not lying. So that's an issue. That's one issue. Another issue is communication from commissioners to their constituents.
Absolutely.
So.
And there needs to be something in place. Look, I'm not trying to be critical of anyone. You asked the question, what am I going to do if I get in there? And I'm trying to explain to you, I personally am one of those people. I don't back down from anything. If you have a question, instead of trying to, well, I'll get back with you and run to the other side and never do, I want you to know I'm going to be one of those that say, come on in. If I don't know the answer, I'm going to find out the answer.
Yeah, that's good.
And we need to have a county government that has that mindset. I think people, if they find out that you are really doing what you should be doing and trying to spend the county's money wisely, then I think they're going to be behind you.
Yes.
And so that's what we've got to do. And I don't want to wade into the weeds, but you asked, what am I going to do if I become county mayor? And I want to share that with people.
So transparency, that was one. And before I move on, and God, remind me, my next question was about the budget and increasing income.
Right.
So remind me if I forget growth, yes. Yeah. But before we wade off into that, there is this narrative, true or not. I had Mayor Quick on and we talked, and I wanted to give him the space to flesh out about obstacles that he's faced. There does seem to be some break between the mayor's office and the CLB. And the question to me is his practices justified because they are out to get him? And that makes it sound like the boogeyman's coming or something. But that is a real narrative that people believe, or is it, some of this is just the way that he does things and it makes people suspicious of him and then it breaks there. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to speak to that a little bit. Whether or not you want to is fine, but I just want to say that there is a narrative amongst people. People will watch this. I've shared videos and people say, he's for us. He needs new commissioners. And I guarantee you that David Quick's heart is with the county. That's I believe him when he says that. But now someone's heart being in it is great. You need someone who is a believer in what they're doing. But at the end of the day, also, it has to do with how you carry on your business, you know. And so this is not me being critical of him. This is me saying that, you know, there is another side to that story, which is kind of, you know, you're not the one to really talk to about this. I don't know who would be, but, you know, what is the story there? What is the situation? Because it's hard for me to believe. And then again, you know, people will watch this and say, well, you know, there's people in this town that got money and blah, 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 and they're going to fight against the common man. That is the narrative.
Sure.
But it's hard for me to believe because we either all win or we all lose.
Right.
We all win when we work together and when we find common ground. And, you know, it's hard for me to believe that there would be people out there who would be seeking to undermine him. Now, I had Mr. Steve on. He spoke to that to great length, and the Concerned Citizens Group, they are very much, you know, that's the belief that they hold, and that is how they see it, and they have their reasons for believing in that. And so I don't want to take away from them, but I will say, just like we spoke earlier about the truth, it seems like too much for just one person to handle, and it takes everyone working together to really get their eyes on what is happening. You know, and like I said, I'm not trying to be critical of Mr. David at all. I think the world of him. I mean, he knows that. But, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. What is the fire? What is going on there? And trying to get to the bottom of it is difficult for me. You know, and here I have been doing the show and trying to educate people who are interested in this kind of thing. And for me, as someone who's become more involved, and also I've taken a lot of flack from people who are like, well, you just came on the scene and you ain't never been interested before or involved in before, which I reject wholeheartedly. I've always been involved in my community, just not in this capacity. I mean, this is different for me. This is new, but I've always cared, and I do want this to be the kind of place that my boys want to call home one day. I mean that. Sure. So, you know, all that being said is I am purposefully trying to get to the bottom of what's going on and inform people. You know, and I do think it's unfair because I'll tell you, and God, I'm going way off the rabbit hole. We've already been talking an hour.
That's all right.
But some people are going to say, well, Eric's just their pick. You know what I mean? And that's not fair. That's not fair. Because if you listen to this conversation, you can see where the man's heart is. You can't bullcrap your way through an hour and a half of talking. You know, maybe some people can. I don't know. But I feel that you are genuine. I feel that your purposes for doing this are genuine. I think people that watch this and give you a fair shake will feel the same way. And so, you know, when you talk about that break of transparency between the mayor's office and the COB, that's fair game. That's fair to talk about. And the reason why is I don't know. Some people will say that it's, like I said, that he's rightly suspicious of them around him or something. And some people will say, well, he's just bringing it on himself. And I don't wed myself to either one of those ideas. I don't know. I can't figure it out. But if what you're saying is true, and I believe that it is, because I don't think you would lie about something like that, why in the world? That's not good. That's not good for anybody. And something like that, is that a regular practice? Is it something that's just happened here recently? Has it been the whole term? Do you know? I'm just curious because I would like to have time for my commissioner to come to me and say, what do you think about this or something?
Sure. So number one, I want to address that there's a lot to what you just said.
I know, I'm sorry.
I'm talking about it in a nutshell, but I guess the direction I want to go, and I encourage people to look into this, sometimes you have to take a deep breath and look at state statutes and say, what is a county mayor?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the problems that have been created over the last few years is because of the lack of knowledge of knowing what a county mayor is. He or she is not a dictator. They do not have the authority to make those decisions, nor do the people of Dyer County want them to. So when I hear, well, they're against me, I want to go, well, I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
Because I can share with you what I know to be what a county mayor is supposed to be, what that position. It's different from a municipality. The responsibilities of county mayor are different than city mayor of Dyersburg or city mayor of Newburgh.
Yes.
And so a county mayor, their obligation and their duty, elected by all of the people, are to have a finger on the pulse of Dyer County. But it all stems from, remember how we talked about communities?
Yes.
It all has to come from the commissioners. And what I mean by that, as county mayor, I am going to have a vision for the county. I don't think our county has had a vision. You say, well, what is that, Eric? A vision is simply, what do we want the county to look like in 10, 20, 30 years? My drive to become county mayor is my daughters and my family. I want this county to be growing. I want this county to provide something to them so that when they, regardless of what they decide to do in life as an occupation, there's something for them here.
That's right.
They can live, work, and worship and raise a family, and I can be with my grandkids
That's right.
down the road.
That's right.
That's my motivation.
That's right.
And so to do that, this county has to have a vision. What do we want it to look like? We have all these things to offer we're not tapping into. We have miles of road frontage along the largest interstate in the world, which is the Mississippi River.
That's right.
There are only 2 bridges that cross the Mississippi River in Tennessee. One's in Memphis, one's right here
I know.
in our county. If you put a dot on Dyersburg, or the center of our county, we are about 500 miles from half of the United States population. We are in a great location.
Yeah.
We're very close to Interstate 40. We're very close to Interstate I-55. It runs through our county. So when you look at what we have to offer that we're not tapping into, we're over here talking about things that we need to keep our eyes on the prize.
That's right.
And so the county mayor, getting back to
Yes.
the county mayor, from my perspective, needs to have visions, and he needs to sell that to the representatives of all of our communities within the county, which is our county commissioners.
Gotcha.
If he or she cannot convince 11 of them that this is good for the county, it wasn't a good idea.
That's right. Start over. Yeah.
And so when people ask me, well, what's going on in the county commission? What's been going on the last 3 years? Why is there this disconnect? I can't answer that from a standpoint of my mind goes to somebody is not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Mm.
Because I can have the greatest ideas in the world. But if you're a county commissioner and you go, Mayor, look, I'm sorry, but I don't see how in the world that's going to help Finley. I'm going to vote against it.
Yeah.
I've got to go back to the drawing board. My vision is not good enough for the whole county.
That's right.
My idea is not good enough for the whole county because you don't think that it helps your district.
That's right.
And so we've got to keep coming up with these ideas. We've got to keep searching for things that's going to benefit the county, and at least a supermajority. I'll even go that far, a supermajority of the constituents that are represented on the county commission. So one of the ways that we can do that, I have said this for a long time, I'm an avid hunter. My family, I've duck hunted my entire life. I love doing that. We should be the duck hunting capital of Tennessee.
That's right.
For 60 days in Dyer County, it should be duck days of Dyer County.
Yeah.
People should be flying in from all over the country to come here to enjoy what we have to offer.
That's right.
If you have a little house, the one that we're doing this podcast in right now, for 60 days,
It ought to be Airbnb.
and
or
that's
something.
exactly right.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah, I do.
And the beautiful thing about tourism, and I've always said this, is those people come into our county, they enjoy our county and what we have to offer. They spend money and then they leave. We don't have to educate their kids. We don't have to put in infrastructure for them to build houses. We don't have to have any cost whatsoever. Those people come into our county, they spend money and then they leave.
Yeah.
And so that is one area that I want to really put some energy into, is bringing in tourism. There are other things that, for sake of time, we won't talk about. And then the other thing is putting a plan together, working with economic community development, working with the state. I've been there. I know how critical and important that is to bring those companies in and tell them what we have to offer.
Yeah. That's good. We got all the time in the world. I know. I know we've been talking an hour. We go as long as you wanted to, though. But no, that all sounds good. I know that tourism is something big that the mayor has promoted. You know, that's one of his big things that he always does talk about. And I agree, tourism is good. But circling back to my last question, then we'll wrap it up. Was you were talking about how do we increase, 5-6% on the budget and have to keep from raising property taxes, like so many other counties are able to go without doing it. What are some ideas, which you kind of done said some of them, but besides tourism, besides working with the economic development group, what are some ideas to try to boost our, income so that we can prevent higher taxes in the future? Anything else that you'd like to say about that before we move on? Or?
Well, and that encompasses a huge plan.
I know.
And so you've got to get people together. The first thing that we've got to do is get with the industrial board, get with the chamber, get with our municipalities, and I include Trimble in that, Trimble, Newbern, Dyersburg. And the first thing we've got to do, and I think we've lacked that even in my lifetime, some will disagree with me, but moving into the future, we've got to say, okay, here's what Jackson is doing in growth. Here is what, and I'll just use this for Blue Oval City. When you look at that, it's had its issues, it's had its problems, but that kind of changed the projection of West Tennessee and Northwest Tennessee. So we need to be working with our partners. We need to be working with Lake County, Obion County, Lauderdale County. All of us need to have a plan as to what's coming this way. Where can we draw in new industry? And so I think that's the focus. I mean, if you look at it, we've lost a lot of industry in our county.
I know.
And so the plan must be that we get that back and we have a situation and an environment where not only do we have jobs, but we have well-paid jobs that encompasses a lot of different areas, a lot of different avenues. Those that have higher education, those that don't, those that have technical training or specific skills and certifications for that. We need to have industry that uses all of those.
Yes. Well, that's good. I know they built they call it the $5 million pole barn. It's just a spec industrial plant, more or less. I think that it's made so that if an industry wanted to come in,
right,
they could basically make it whatever they wanted to be, and that's fantastic. But spending money and raising taxes, while they're doing that, it was a bad optic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I just, we talked a little bit, and I guess I'll bring it up about. Gosh, I'm sorry to keep talking. I hope I ain't wearing you out.
No.
You got somewhere to be?
No, I have nowhere to be.
Well, I tell you what's important to a lot of folks that I know in Finland, and it could really, countywide and further than the county, the project or speculation that we have towards whatever might could be done on Bungie Road, right? We talked some about that to try to do something there. Is that on the plan? Is that on the radar, or what are you thinking? Just is that part of the industry, or?
So I've been working with Bungie Road because I'm a farmer.
Yes.
And I have been called in, and of course I have a close relationship with the state, and I've always been involved. It's not that I hold a position, it's just I know a lot of those folks that are in those positions, and so I have been involved with Jeff Jones about Bungie Road, Representative Rusty Grills, Commissioner of Agriculture in Tennessee, Andy Holt. And so we have been working on that. I think there are some things. I actually have a phone call to make this week about Bungie Road. I think it's critical. I think it's important.
You talked about us being right along the side of the Mississippi River. I mean, it would be so nice to see what we have, out town, which I understand you can't bring industry right on the river. It's got to be, there's a lot of conditions that go into making something work down there. But still yet, we have CBG, we have ADM just moved in down there. Choctaw's been down there, and just different things. But I wonder if there would be anything that could be done. Do you see that being more of like a developed site in the future in the 10, 20, 30-year plan?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I have screamed that from the mountaintop. We have a 2-mile stretch on Bungie Road. When you turn off of Great River Road, there's 2 miles from there to CGB. That is from the way I look at it, an industrial park. Should be. For some reason, and I don't understand that, I've talked with the Corps of Engineers, I've talked with companies who have looked at that site. That is a beautiful location along the river. A lot of folks like that. It's about the depth to be able to load barges and that type of thing. So that is one of the first things I'm going to focus on, understanding agriculture more than some areas. But I don't understand why we have not
done more
to develop that.
Yeah.
We had a company that was looking at putting in a soybean crushing facility. Another reason I'm running for county mayor. And it was just kind of, well, we've run into some roadblocks.
Yeah.
And what they don't understand is just on the basis alone of the soybeans just raised in Dyer County, that would have brought in around $13 million to our local economy a year.
Well, I'll take it. If you had to ask me what my vision was, it would be to make this county prosperous over time, 10, 20, 30 years. Now, bringing that out of the ether and into reality, that's where it becomes difficult. Do we build a spec building to try to bring an industry out town? How do we go about developing the place on Bungie Road to sell it to a business that may want to come in? I don't know the particulars of how you get this stuff done, but they are interesting options. I think that, I don't know, that $5 million pole barn caught a lot of flack, but.
Well, I want to give kudos to Rusty Grills, our representative. He's, like him or don't like him, you have to respect him. And, he was involved in that, getting that $5 million spec building. I'm always going to be for growth in our county.
Yes, same.
And spec buildings are a necessary evil. And the people need to understand this. When companies are looking to expand or relocate into an area, they're going to call the state, more than likely economic and community development. The feelers are going to be put out. Our chamber and our county government and city government will put a proposal out there saying, hey, look at us. And so it gives you an advantage if you have a $5 million pole barn sitting out there so that they can move right in.
That's
it speeds that process up for over a year.
Yes.
And so it does give us a competitive advantage. I understand the concern.
Yeah, I do too.
Because sometimes it's kind of like,
hey, I build spec houses. I got one right now I can't sell.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just the nature of it. But, at least with what I do, it's, if you have the ability to put one in, you have to believe, I believe someone will buy it eventually. They haven't bought it yet. It's been on the market 3 or 4 months. I know some guys that have had some on the market for over a year.
Right.
And that is a necessary evil, like you said. If you have everything in place like I do to be able to build and do what I'm doing, if you have the opportunity to do it and you're not too busy doing other things, it's good to go ahead and do it, believing that you will make money on the back end. A lot of it has to do with having faith.
Right.
If you have faith in our community, then you ought to be able to say, well, hey, this costing us a lot of money right now. We don't appreciate the tax increase, but maybe it will pay off in the end, and that's where you see the reward. But in the meantime, it sucks. It's terrible. It is. I wish I could sell them before I had them built, but it don't always happen like that. So, but no, I just, talking about bringing industry in, that came to my mind, but I know there's a bunch of different directions we could go in that. And we've been talking plenty of time. So if they don't know a little bit about you by now, they ain't going to. So,
well, I appreciate this opportunity. One thing that I did want to discuss, and I've had several make mention about that I've served on the fair board. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to shy back from that at all.
Yeah. Well, let me just say that, for people that may watch this that may, may not understand where we're fixing to go, Mr. Eric has been on the fair board. Are you a chairman or something? Or
no, I've been a past president.
A past president. But how many years?
Over 20.
20, yeah. And a lot of people will say that's a conflict of interest. Well, I'm going to allow Eric, because he is so much more familiar with this than I am, to explain why, he doesn't believe it's a conflict of interest. And everyone that watches this can be their own judge. But I do believe the fair does do a lot of good for our county. People are skeptical, because I don't know, they just are. So Take it away, Eric.
Well, I just want to clear the air about that and use this platform that you've given me. This is not going to be anything. There are some people that have said, well, you're on the fair board. There are 4 commissioners, I think, that are on the fair board. I'm not sure about how many. And so I want to I want to say there are 72 fair board members in Dyer County. All volunteers. We're a 501c3. And so if you have, and their spouses, so if you have that many people involved in an organization, there's a good chance they're also going to be involved in other things. And so the fair board, the reason I got involved when I came back is because the fair was important to me when I was young and growing up.
Sure.
It was a family-friendly environment to come to every year. It was the social event of Dyer County for the year. I enjoyed, as a farmer's son, taking my products to the fair and
getting the blue ribbon.
Yeah. And that was everything from canned goods, things we grew in the garden, to my corn and soybeans and cotton and those type of things. And so it was very important to me growing up. We showed animals. We raised cattle, we raised hogs, we carried them to the shows. And so to be able to get a purple ribbon at the Dyer County Fair in my backyard was a big deal to me.
That's right.
So that was my motivation to come and donate time, and we have done that. And none of the money, we are set up totally different in Dyer County than most county fairs. Most county fairs are a line item budget of the county commission. And so that fair is put on because the county commission gives them the money to put the fair on.
Yes.
And there is a small group that's generally political that is the fair board. And they hire everything done and they oversee it. If you've noticed the papers over the last 4 or 5 years, what you will notice, there are counties right around us that the county commission have said, hey, look, we've given y'all all the money we're going to give you. And our county fairs are dying across the state, and yet your fair here in Dyer County is growing. We're winning awards through the state, being the most efficient and the greatest fair, and we've won those awards multiple times. And so I just want you to understand, sometimes emotions and a lack of knowledge about things get people all bent out of shape, and it all stemmed because the county commission used some what they called COVID money, ARP money, I think is what it was.
A couple years ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was given to the county commission. It could not go into the general budget, and it had specific things the state said we had to use it for. And when I say we, I'm talking about the county government. The fair board at the same time was working on building the new gym that is going to be open to the public. It's going to be open to our businesses, and it is going to be housing the oldest known operable gin in the South.
That's cool.
That was donated to us, and of course it has to be in a climate controlled building. And we want to preserve agriculture, and it's going to cost a lot of money to build that building because we're going to have a classroom in it. We're going to have a meeting rooms so that people can have food catered. If Dot Foods wants to use that for their executive meeting, if our school systems want to use that, and it is going to be a museum. We're going to show the old pictures of how important cotton was to Dyer County.
Oh yeah.
And so that is why we went to the budget committee a couple of years ago. They gave us $100,000 for that. But as far as the county giving us money year after year, I think they try to give us a donation of $2,000 a year, and we give them $4,000 worth of passes.
Yeah.
So we are not funded by the county. We have absolutely nothing. There's no obligation of county government to the Dyer County Fair. The only arrangement we have is a 99-year lease. They gave us a 99-year lease of that grounds, which used to be the old penal farm. And it was just being farmed. And so they gave us that lease. All of those buildings are paid for. We do all of the maintenance to that property. We pay the light bill, we pay the electric bill, we pay the water bill. All of that's done by the fair board. It costs the county absolutely nothing. And at the end of that 99 years, everything you see, if they choose not to renew the lease,
just goes to the county.
It goes to the county.
Yeah. Well, that's good. There's a lot there. I'm trying to let you go, man. I just keep having questions. I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's fine.
So
May have to edit this. So.
Oh no, raw, unedited. It's gonna be like live.
Raw, that's right.
But no, my question was, so the COVID money, it had to be spent on, I guess it didn't have to be, but if it was being given to us, we needed to spend it on something, correct? And you were saying that it couldn't go into the general fund. And so that made the door open to, I don't know how many possibilities of where it could go. It could go to y'all at the fair board, or it could have went, I'm guessing, other places, like for people where I live in Findlay, we experience irony, rusty water really bad with our water district that we have, and that is a big time concern amongst people that are my friends and neighbors, and that's a promise that I made. If I'm elected commissioner, that I'm gonna work really hard to try to get something done about that to the best of my ability. That being said, maybe hindsight's always 20/20, and I don't know that y'all were aware of it, or maybe you were, or maybe you didn't know to what extent that problem it is a big problem, but I know that that's something I've heard. Well, here we are, DSCUD needed that, they needed that money, and it went somewhere else, and people were acting like, well, it's because the fair board's corrupt and they're in with the CLB and blah blah blah, and if you want to believe that, more power to you. I believe that maybe we weren't in good enough clear communication. I believe that even if they got the money, they're going to do something really good with it. I believe that we really could have used the money, but it didn't work out that way for whatever reason. I ain't trying to throw shade anywhere, but whatever, And I choose to believe that sometimes, government's not perfect. People want it to be perfect. It's not perfect. People ain't perfect. Churches ain't perfect, And so, if y'all did get the money for that, I'm proud to know that it's going to go towards something good like that,
Well, and let me clarify something. So, and check me out.
No, I may be wrong. I mean, you probably are more of an expert than I am.
Those funds that came through the American Recovery Program, I think is what, and don't quote me on that. We'll call it COVID money for the sake of this, that came to our county. We were informed that money had to go for capital projects that would benefit the whole county. There were certain criteria that it had to meet.
So it would disqualify something like one water district.
Well, the water district, no offense, was completely out no matter what.
Gotcha. No, that's fine. I mean,
that is a separate entity.
Well, that's how it was explained to me. And that's what a lot of people are hearing. That's one of the reasons why I want to do this. I mean, more, and it's sad that people are out of the loop so bad, because that's a story that got told to me that evidently wasn't even true. It wasn't even correct, And so,
I mean, they could have, that water department, DSCUD, could have come to the county if they had a building project that was going to benefit the whole county and met the criteria. They could have come just like we did as a fair board,
but it didn't happen,
and give our presentation. And so I don't understand them. I'm trying to get the people to understand why the fair board went. Now, having said that, we've also gotten grants from the Tennessee Department of Agriculture that believe in this project and believe it's going to be good for our county.
I believe
and we've gotten, so it wasn't just county government giving us money. And as far as I'm concerned, since I've been on the fair board, it's really the first time they've ever given us any money. I don't know, I'll say that again. The only money that's ever come from Dyer County taxpayers to the fair board, as far as I understand, has been that $2,000 a year that they give us. And then we give them $4,000 worth of passes.
Yes, but then the COVID money, which ain't exactly the county giving that money to y'all per se, it was money that they were required to go wherever someone had the criteria to receive that money.
Yes, and that did not come out of the general fund.
Yes.
Meaning that was not Dyer County taxpayers.
That
wasn't part of that $80 million.
Yeah, that wasn't an increase in tax that was going to the fair board. I didn't think it was.
No, that was a one-time money that had certain criteria that had to meet for the budget committee and the county commission to give them. And that's why we weren't the only ones in the county to receive money out of that budget, because other people came. Even the day that the fair board gave their presentation to the budget committee, the whole day was full of people within Dyer County giving presentations to try to get.
Yes, to try to receive some of the COVID
Sure,
money, yeah.
right.
And that's fair. I mean, yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and this is not, that's a whole nother can of worms that I guess we probably just need to say for another. The DSCUD thing is that could be a whole nother talk. I like all them people. I know all them people, and I've had many houses that I've redone that had DSCUD water. I lived on DSCUD water until the last 2 years of my life. So, I know of them. I don't know them really well, but I'm getting to know them better as time goes on, and the more I pursue this. But there's challenges there that I understand what you mean when you tell me what the deal was with that. It makes more sense to me now. I believe it'll make more sense to the viewers when they see it. But no, I mean, like I said, I'm glad what y'all have going on there. I think it's fantastic. I think the thing with the gin, I think everything with the 99-year lease and having all the bills paid for, that's very well put. Better than I could ever try to say it again. So.
And I want to say something about the water district to the people of Dyer County. There's almost this area. Y'all have, it is a problem. Let me just say that. It is definitely a problem. I've looked at it. I'm aware that it is a problem. There is some disconnect because Dyer County, as a legislative body, has very little authority.
Correct.
Over that water district. And some people are saying, well, Mayor Quick has helped us, and I'm glad he's done what he's done, and I'm glad he's brought it to the light. And I'm not going to let that go. I'm going to give all the help that I can possibly give, and I'm going to make sure. But you've got to understand, and I'm going to say this publicly.
Oh boy.
When we have problems like that, there had to be a neglect issue.
Yes.
Somewhere earlier.
Yes.
And when I say earlier, I mean I'm going back 30 and 40 years.
I know. I've talked about this on the show. Yeah.
And no one has really discussed, okay, fixing the problem has to be done, starting to fix the problem. It didn't happen overnight. It's not going to be fixed overnight.
Nope.
But I think the people in that water district just want to see
a
progress,
plan in action.
Plan.
Yeah, we need a bullseye.
And there has to be two plans. Number one, if there's a plan to fix this, how long is it going to take?
Yes.
And the second plan needs to be, what are we going to put in place to make sure this never happens again?
Yes.
And so that's all I'm going to say about that.
Well,
but I'm with you.
Just speaking a little bit to what you said about the CLB having very little, what's the word? It ain't exactly power, but very little say over how the water district works. The mayor is able to appoint a person to be on the board of directors for the water district. The CLB votes to approve that person or not. That's pretty much it. Then they can maybe work to receive grants to help the water district in projects that they have going on. And so, there is, yes, I've talked about it before on the show. I think it was with Mr. Steve. We brought it up, but yeah, there's been a problem. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to own up to it. But I'll tell you, I actually met with someone involved at the water district. They were telling me about how nobody down there has bad water. Somebody way on up there. I said, I wouldn't be talking to you and wasting your time and my time if it wasn't a big deal. And he said, well, who down there has bad water? I started, this one. I had about 10 or 12 people off the top of my head.
Right.
I know they have bad water. And I started to do a little survey to people, just have you had bad water? How often? Stuff like that. I was told to stop, not to make a big deal out of it. I want you to know it's a big deal. And this is not trying to see anything happen to the people that work at DSCUD or anything like that, but for the people that live in that water every day, it's a big deal to them. It matters to them, and it was kind of discouraging to me. But regardless, as a commissioner or just as a member of the community, if I end up losing I'm committed to seeing my mother have better water. I'm committed to seeing my grandmother, my aunt, my uncles, my cousins. I'm committed to seeing them get better water. And there is very little that someone on the COB can do. But at the end of the day, just being there, showing that you care, you know, there's some things I believe that can be done from the position of somebody as a commissioner that maybe haven't been done. And that's, you know, I could go more into depth than that, but I probably won't. So anyways, thank you very much. And go
No,
ahead.
I was just going to say, listen, I've enjoyed being on here, and I brought up the water thing because I just, you know, I want people to know that I know it's an issue.
Yes.
It's not going to be forgotten if I'm elected mayor. That's something we're going to continue to work on. And people within any water district deserve to have good water.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yeah. Oh God, I could just keep going on and on.
I'm sorry, I keep opening
No,
up
it's
this
all
can
right.
of
You
worms,
just keep
but-
bringing it out.
Yeah,
No, I told someone that something as simple as water, and they said, "Don't say simple. That ain't right." I understand that it's a complicated. I've actually worked on water systems. So before I did construction, I was a steel mill electrician. I was at Big River Steel in Osceola, and I was at New Corey Motto Steel for about 3 or 4 years. And so, anyways, water systems was a big part of what we did. We had to cool everything to keep it from melting down whenever we were rolling hot steel. But anyways, that making, you know, pumping water out of the ground, filtering it, pumping it out. There's a lot that goes into that. But it is a basic. It's as simple as lights in the house. You know, if we had lights that didn't work half the time, you know, we would be as upset as having bad water half the time. You know, it is something that somebody did drop the ball long ago, and at this point, it doesn't matter who. But I like what you said. We need a plan. This is what we're going to do. This is how long it's going to take. This is about how much money it's going to cost. And then what can we put in place so that this doesn't happen again in 30, 50 years, whatever. So thank you. Thank you so much. And sorry, I just kept bending your ear.
No,
going
I enjoyed
on and
it.
on. Yeah, I enjoyed it too. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate being on your show.
We'll do it again.